This is all I can do for him.
It is wrong that I should be discriminated against just because I am disabled such that I cannot take my own life. The ability to decide when, where and how one's life will end is the basic human right.
Well, let's speak with Tony's daughter, Lauren, who joins me. Thanks for coming in, Lauren. It's terribly emotive stuff. You've said that it ripped the core, in essence, out of your dad. It's pure torture for him. What is it like for you, your sister, your family, to live with that?
It's horrible to see him like that. He went, as you heard previously, from an incredibly loud, vivacious, outgoing character who loved his life to someone who is effectively trapped in a dead body. So for us to see him in so much mental anguish, day in, day out, for the last 7 years and facing another 30, he's only 58, he could have another 30 years of this, just makes me sick to my stomach, really.
And yet, essentially, what you're asking for is somebody to kill your dad.
Yeah. If anyone was to help him die now, they could face a murder charge. What we are campaigning for is for this country to end up in a position whereby a doctor can legally, lawfully end someone's life. Obviously there'll be, complete consent there. That's what we're campaigning for, and it should be possible. And you're asking for what would amount to a massive change in the law? Yeah, the legalities of it I'm not too hot on, but we want a system to be put in place, a very heavily regulated, a very strict, stringent system put in place, whereby you would have to be of sound mind, so you would have to request it, which would protect the vulnerable. You would have to go through all kinds of court systems, psychiatric testing, and it would only be available to people who cannot kill themselves. So a very small minority of the British public would be in that position anyway. Yeah, I mean, John Penrose, none of us can put ourselves in that position, clearly, but is it something the government has sort of put its head in the sand about, because it can't really come up with a viable solution to this?
Well, you're absolutely right. This is really hard stuff, because as we just heard, this is a heartbreaking case. And while I think everybody's heart goes out in this case and would want to help, I think anybody would want to help, the danger is a different kind of case some point in future, where if you get the law wrong, if you make the legal changes, you get it wrong, you could end up with all sorts of quite dangerous precedents being set. So you've got to tread really, really carefully. I'm not saying you shouldn't try. I think it's long overdue that we have a parliamentary debate on this. We haven't debated it for ages, but it's really difficult stuff to get the details right.
Kerry McCarthy, he says he's discriminated against. Should he have the right to die?
I think, what more fundamental right could there be, as I think he says in that film, than the right to be able to have a say in that sort of matter? And I just totally 100% support Lauren and her family in this. I think that we have to...
But how far should that go, Kerry? I mean, should a doctor be put in a position where he can legally kill somebody?
But obviously there needs to be all the safeguards that Lauren spoke about. We need to be very careful. The opponents of this, and it has been debated several times in Parliament since I've been an MP, they tend to drum up sort of scare stories about almost like a Harold Shipman type that is going to be going around trying to persuade old ladies that perhaps are past their best that it's time to, sort of shuffle off this mortal coil. And that is just not the scenario at all. It will be a very, very small number of cases. The courts will be involved, psychiatrists will be involved, other people would be involved in overseeing that decision. I've had family members that have had long, slow, painful deaths from cancer, for example, and we know that sometimes doctors up the morphine doses to ease their pain, and actually that brings forward their death. But I think that is so the humane thing to do.
But John, you talk about having parliamentary debates about this. We've heard through this case there's something like 3,000 euthanasia cases in this country that have gone unreported. Government after government talk about having discussions about it, but we never get any further down the road, do we?
Well, and I guess that's because it is so difficult, because there is, here we've got quite a degree of, I think, consensus around this, but if you take it more broadly across society, there are huge objections out there, people with really strong moral objections, which we may agree or we may disagree with, but they are strongly held, and you've got to respect those positions. And there are very many people, particularly those who are regular churchgoers, who feel incredibly strongly that this is wrong, even though I hope everybody would have huge sympathy with this case.
What sort of issue is this? Is this a matter of law, or a matter of religion, or a matter of ethics?
Well, I think the problem is, it does tend to be the sort of faith lobby in Parliament that is opposed to this, and obviously they have the right to have their religious beliefs, but when that interferes with other people's fundamental human rights, and I think this is a fundamental human right, we do have to, I think there's an imbalance at the moment with policy to an extent being dictated by people from certain sections, and I think it's really important that we listen to people like, you know, the Nicklinson family.
And Lauren, as you say, you live with this every day. You're a young girl yourself, and this is one of the biggest ethical debates anybody could have, and yet it's your dad, it's your family at the centre of this.
Well, that's it. For a lot of people, it's just, you know, a bloke they see in the newspaper or on telly, but this is my dad. This is someone that I love, and I have to see go through hell every living day. And whilst we do have to look at sort of, you know, views across society as a whole, we're talking about one individual case here that should be judged on its own merits, and because what we are campaigning for will only affect such a very, very small and specific part of society, you know, and my dad, you know, so to me that means more, you know, than anything. You know, it needs to be talked about, and we need this to happen.
Well, we'll hear the outcome of this debate in the fullness of time. Thanks very much indeed for coming in, and thank you both for the moment. Now, £100 million a year, tens of thousands of cows slaughtered. Everybody agrees something must be done to tackle bovine TB. The government's poised to start culling badgers in 2 swathes of the West Country. They help to spread the disease. But the High Court this week will be told the cull must be stopped because the science just doesn't stack up. Here's Paul Bartrop.